A little-known area of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department has one of the most challenging and important functions of police work. Property and Evidence maintains literally thousands of pieces of items that range from bicycles to guns to baseball bats to drug money. Sergeant Santiago Garza describes the purpose of the unit.
We have the responsibility of maintaining any and all property and evidence collected on this police department through investigations or voluntary turn-ins. In the investigative process, we work closely with detectives, prosecutors, and representatives of the court system, along with our lab partners, to maintain the chain of custody for any and all evidentiary items.
There are currently 9 people who work in Property and Evidence, keeping track of every single item that comes through KCPD, and the collection is growing every year.
Over the last 17 years, the amount of items that we've received and we're taking in on a yearly basis has been consistently growing. So for example, this past year, 2016, we took well over 80,000 items into our unit. That includes everything from guns and drugs and money and any and everything else associated with any type of investigative crime. Because there's a lot of evidence that's recovered, whether it's DNA or fingerprints and that sort of thing. So this is all inclusive, but currently in this past year we were over 80,000 items. By comparison, just in 2005 we were at about 55,000. So that number is consistently growing.
Keeping track of it is a complicated process, but everything is cataloged and stored efficiently to make sure the chain of custody is not lost when and if that item might be needed for actual evidence in a criminal case.
Whether you're a seasoned officer of the field, whether you're a detective, whether you work in the crime lab as a technician, anywhere along the chain, it has to be a very organized and structured process for collecting and maintaining the evidence. So it starts in the field most of the time. Officers will recover, and they use our protocols and procedures to properly recover that individual item. A gun is recovered much differently than drugs. Drugs are recovered much differently than, say, a found bicycle. But everything has to be respected equally. And so ultimately, as it moves through the system, because it goes from the field officer to the division station where it's going to be held until a courier can pick it up. And from here, it may go directly to the lab. It may go to a prosecutor's hands for review. A detective may want to see it. Depending on the item, it could have a couple different paths to follow. But overall, that chain of custody is highly critical, and everything along the way has to be done in a very organized and meticulous fashion.
We took a trip to the warehouse, where property has been stored for years. The huge building is located in an undisclosed location, and the walkthrough can be an overwhelming experience. So how long does KCPD keep all this stuff around?
If it's an item that was generated during an investigation, it has to go through the investigative process, which means that it's considered evidence and it was collected for whatever reason. So a detective and a lot of times or a prosecutor has to authorize the release of a property item. Once that is complete, then we can get it back to the owner. Whether it's a handgun, it's a bicycle, it's a baseball bat, any number of items. If it's evidence, it has to go through the same processes. But once we have a release from a detective and we're authorized to give it to someone, we will make every needed arrangement to make that happen. But that could take years sometimes. Sometimes it's done within the first few days of it being collected. It just depends. That's just a very wide-ranging possibility. Now, if it's an item that was just voluntarily turned in, it was just confiscated for safety reasons, it doesn't have an evidentiary value. It's considered safekeeping is the term that we use on our police department. Those we can return pretty quickly, pretty much as soon as we know who it belongs to and we can verify the ownership, we can get it back to that person. So once again, depending on the item, it may be within the first day or two. And typically, if someone hasn't come to get their things within 40 days, at that point it's going to be subject for disposal. Our police department participates in propertyroom.com, which is an eBay style format. So for things that are of value, that there is no claimant. Either someone has not come to get it or we don't know who to give it to, it will go to that.
What happens to your stolen property? Maybe you lost a valuable item years ago. Have you checked with KCPD?
We organize appointment dates for people to come in and pick up property that we know that belongs to them and that we've confirmed can be released to them. And in this facility, it's open Monday through Friday. Between 8 o'clock and 3 o'clock Monday through Friday, we take phone calls to make these arrangements, to make these appointments. The actual appointments are set up on Tuesdays from noon to 3 for the public, and then on Thursday mornings from 8 a.m. till noon. So that gives us a wide range of hours to get people accommodated and make those appointments. And then 24 hours a day, anyone can send us an email. We review the emails each and every day. Our property and evidence at kcpd.org is our main email address.
Here is the information on how to recover your property. You can also see items that were never claimed at www.propertyroom.com. I'm Sergeant Matt Fisher. Have a safe week.